Welcome, my inquisitive minds. Today, we will uncover one of the darkest mysteries in the history of mountaineering. A story so eerie and unsolved that it echoes through the corridors of mystery even today. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass incident, an unsolved tragedy in which 9 experienced hikers perished in the icy wilderness of the Ural Mountains under circumstances that defy explanation. Sit back as we travel to 1959, when an expedition turned into a nightmare. Our story begins in January 1959. The group of 9 hikers was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute. These were not adventurers. They were all experienced and well prepared for the grueling winter conditions. The group consisted of 8 men and 2 women, all of whom had extensive knowledge of survival and hiking. They were setting out on what was classified as a Category 3 trek, the most difficult level, to reach the remote and snow-capped Mount Otterton in the northern Ural Mountains. Dyatlov was known as a strict but fair leader. Each member had specific responsibilities, from cooking to maintaining equipment. The group was well equipped with warm clothing, plenty of food, and the latest in hiking gear available at the time. They kept detailed journals and took photographs along the way, documenting their journey. By piecing these records together, investigators were later able to trace the events leading up to the tragedy, up to a certain point. The group set out on January 23, 1959. They reached the town of Ivdel by train and took a truck to the last inhabited village at the foot of the Ural Mountains. They spent the night in Vijay, the last village before setting out into the wilderness. Their journey had been physically demanding, with icy winds and snowstorms, but their spirits seemed high. But what happened next remains a mystery. The group's final camp was set up on February 1st on the eastern slope of Kolachakal, which translates as Dead Mountain in the language of the local Mansi tribe. That night, for reasons still unknown, something happened that is still impossible to imagine. When the group failed to send a telegram by the agreed date of February 12th, no concerns were raised. Delays were common on such expeditions, but by February 20th, concerned friends and family had convinced the authorities to launch a search operation. After several days of searching, on February 26th, rescuers discovered the remains of the group's tent, cut open from the inside. The sight was chilling. Scattered clothes and belongings lay in disarray, as if abandoned in a panic. It was obvious that something had spooked them enough to cut open the tent from the inside and flee into the night without proper winter clothing. The bodies were found over several weeks in different locations, each telling a different grim story. Near the edge of the forest, first, 2 bodies were found, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, barefoot and wearing only their underwear, lying near a small fire. Their skin was an odd shade of orange, and their arms were covered in bruises and scratches, indicating that they had climbed a nearby tree, perhaps to escape something. Closer to the tent, next, the bodies of Igor Dyatlov, Zenaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin were found strewn between the tree line and the tent, their frozen arms outstretched, as if they had been trying to crawl back to safety. Slobodin had a fractured skull, a wound that added a layer of confusion to the investigation. Ravine. Finally, 2 months later, 4 more participants, Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolovatov, Semyon Zolotarev, and Nikolai Thibault Brignol, were found in a nearby ravine, buried under several feet of snow. These bodies had the most serious injuries. Dubinina was missing her tongue and eyes, Thibault Brignol had severe skull fractures, and Zolotarev and Kolovatov had several broken ribs. The force required to inflict such injuries would have been comparable to a car accident, according to forensic experts, but there were no external wounds. To add another layer of mystery, Traces of radiation were found on some of the clothing. Witnesses later reported seeing orange spheres in the sky around the time of the incident, further fueling rumors of a military test gone wrong. The initial investigation pointed to a possible avalanche, suggesting that the group had fled their tent in panic. However, the slope was too gentle for an avalanche, and there were no typical signs of an avalanche at the site. Furthermore, the injuries sustained by some of the victims were not consistent with those typically caused by an avalanche. Some investigators believe that the military may have been conducting secret tests in the area, possibly involving parachute mines or radiation. This would explain the shock-like injuries and radioactive traces found on clothing. However, no military records were ever released to support this theory, and the Soviet Union quickly classified the case, raising further suspicions. Suggest that the group was driven mad by a rare infrasound phenomenon caused by wind, which can create low-frequency sounds that cause panic and nausea. Under these circumstances, it is possible that the tourists may have unwisely left their shelter. However, this theory still leaves questions about injuries and traces of radiation. Strange lights reported by other expeditions in the area have led to UFO theories. Witnesses mention orange balls in the sky on the night of the incident, giving rise to rumors that the tourists had encountered something otherworldly. The severe injuries sustained by some of the victims and the missing body parts in this theory are believed to be the result of an extraterrestrial encounter. The local Mansi tribes have their own legends about the Mountain of the Dead. They warn that evil spirits protect the land, and there are legends of supernatural forces guarding the mountain. However, there is no evidence linking the indigenous population to the incident, and the Mansi have repeatedly denied any involvement. A Soviet investigation concluded that the group succumbed to an unknown force majeure, an unsatisfactory answer that only left the case open to further speculation. In 2020, Russian authorities reopened the investigation and ultimately concluded that it was the result of an avalanche combined with hypothermia. But that conclusion did not silence the many skeptics and mystery lovers. And so the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most perplexing mysteries of modern times. What unknown force drove the hikers from their tent? Why were their injuries so extreme and inconsistent with natural causes? And what caused the radiation? Was it nature, the Soviet military, or something far beyond our understanding? No matter how hard we search for answers, perhaps some mysteries are meant to remain buried in the snowy slopes of the Ural Mountains. If you found this story as chilling as we did, be sure to check out our previous video, 3 Paranormal Cases That Changed Lives. And of course, like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments which theory you think is closest to the truth.